Hello everybody, Dr. Witham here. Just wanting to get started with a little lecture to take the place of our in-person lecture today that we would have had. We finished up before on Monday with the larger lymphatic vessels and and the various pathologies, and now we're going to just talk about lymphoid tissue, um, specifically the lymphoid nodules right now. Lymphoid nodules are big, as you can read here, big masses of lymphoid tissue that are embedded within your mucous membranes. Examples would be your tonsils. We have three different tonsils: palatine, lingual, and pharyngeal tonsils. And the term adenoids means the inflammation of your pharyngeal tonsils. MALT stands for mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, and these are little clusters of lymph nodules that are under the epithelium in your digestive, urinary, respiratory, and reproductive systems. Examples of those would be Peyer's patches in your intestine and your vermiform appendix. Let's see here. There we go. There's some little diagrams showing you in the intestine, there's a little cluster of lymphoid tissue. This would be a lymphoid nodule underneath, and there's the lumen of the intestine, the actual place where the food would be. And then this little picture is just showing you the palatine tonsil and showing the various little lymphoid. This entire thing would really be the whole tonsil. They've kind of blown it up, and within it would be little nodules of lymphoid tissue. Okay, lymph nodes are bigger. These are little kidney bean shaped pieces of tissue that are, again, full of their lymphoid organs at this point. They're bigger than just plain tissue, and they would be classified as an organ, and they have a little capsule. They tend to be scattered along the lymphatic vessels throughout the body. And afferent lymphatics, afferent means coming at the lymph node, so they carry the lymph towards the lymph node. And efferent lymphatics carry the lymph away from the lymph node. And the lymph node will circulate through the node through a little network of sinuses within the lymph node, a sinus just being an open passageway with an incomplete wall. Okay, so this is just showing you how the lymph will come into the lymph node through the afferent vessel and then travel through all these little sinuses within here, these little passageways. And then, of course, there's the capsule, and here's the efferent lymphatic vessel carrying the lymph away. So it just comes in, circulates through here, and goes out. And within the lymph node, we've got different types of lymphocytes. We've got B cells, we have T cells, we have some connective tissue. Again, so those B and T cells are part of our specific immune system that we'll be talking about later, but those are our special lymphocytes. Okay, so the functions of lymph nodes are to filter lymph. They act as an early warning system to the body, and they protect the vital organs of the trunk, protect in the sense of as far as immunity goes. Okay, if we're talking just about filtering, we'll go back and be a little more specific. The lymph node filters the lymph. In other words, what it does is that the macrophages that are found in the lymph node will filter out, or eat rather, phagocytize bacteria and debris and also tumor cells. And then there's something called antigen presenting. Antigens are processed by macrophages, and they're actually presented to lymphocytes, and that process is called antigen presentation, and that's very important. We'll talk about that later, but it happens in the lymph node. The early warning system, this is what we're meaning here is that abnormal antigens or abnormal chemicals that are on the surface of bacteria and abnormal cells will stimulate the macrophages and lymphocytes in nearby lymph nodes, and they'll send messages, chemical messages to one another. And so this early warning system is, once the body gets under attack, then the lymph nodes are really the first to sense this attack. So that's where the antigen presenting begins, and the macrophages and lymphocytes are going to start to be activated. And this acts to protect the vital organs of the trunk. And we know that your body, your trunk of your body, like from your hips, in other words, exclude your legs and your arms, the rest of that's your trunk. Your important organs are there. And so the largest lymph nodes that you have in your body are found where your arms and legs will connect with your trunk, and where those peripheral lymphatic vessels, the lymphatic vessels that go to your arms and legs, where they hook up to your trunk of your body. That's one of the reasons your lymph nodes are bigger there, because they then are kind of like the last gatekeeper before the lymph then begins to travel into your major critical parts of your body. Okay, let's talk about the spleen. The spleen is where bacteria and old damaged red blood cells and platelets are removed. And again, our friendly big eaters, macrophages, our macrophages will eat those up by phagocytizing them. Also, the spleen is where you store iron from your recycled red blood cells. You also store blood itself and platelets for release when you need it. So the spleen is like a reservoir of blood. We mentioned that venous blood will be stored there. And also the spleen is where the immune response by B and T cells will begin in response to antigens that are found in the blood. So antigens that are found that circulate in the bloodstream, when they go through the spleen, they're going to run into B and T cells, and that's where the immune response begins by those B and T cells, is in your spleen. Okay, and this is just some pictures. If we're looking at the person, we chop them in half and we look down, we can see, again, the guy's facing us, so the stomach and spleen are on the left side. They're connected by a little ligament, and so there's your spleen, and it's just showing you the position of your liver and your kidneys and your backbone, etc. So, in fact, that is a little strange, because I think they're looking up from underneath. I believe that has to be an inferior view. This view, I believe, is an inferior view. We're looking up because if this is the back, so at any rate, the spleen is on the left side, the liver's on the right side, but we're looking up from underneath. There's a picture of the spleen and the blood vessels coming into the spleens. Red one is splenic artery, and the blue is the splenic vein. And this is just a microscopic image showing you just that it's got a capsule, and it has some different parts which we're not going to talk about right now. Okay, and then the thymus is a super important lymphoid organ, and it is in your chest in an area called the mediastinum. The mediastinum is an area that is kind of encased in membranes, and it's contains your trachea and your heart and all of those organs, but it's just kind of a region. It is very large when you are very young, especially when you're in the age of 1 to 2. It's the longest or the biggest that it ever is. And then at puberty, it begins to do what's called involution. Involution means it becomes fibrous and it starts to diminish in size. So that happens at puberty, and it just continues to get smaller as you get older. It secretes hormones called thymosins, which will cause the development and maturation of your lymphocytes. And it is important because it processes T lymphocytes. All right, so that is, then this is just showing you the region, the area of the mediastinum. In other words, it doesn't include the lungs, it includes the organs that are inside the chest cavity, like your trachea, esophagus, your thymus, and even I'm not sure. I believe yes, and I believe the heart is also kind of included in what they call the mediastinum. But that's just a minor point. You don't need to worry about the mediastinum. You'll learn about that later if you need to. But there's where the thymus is, and it has a couple of lobes. There you go. So please note that thymus is different than thyroid. Okay, two different glands. All right, so let's start now, and actually let's stop now. I'm going to stop and we'll do another recording for the specific and non-specific defenses. Thank you.